Hey guys, NanMan here, and we're back with another episode of Modern Meta Breakdown. Been bouncing around with so many different decks for a while, talking about some really competitive decks, some fun decks, some silly decks, some budget decks. We've been all over the place for Modern. And this has been a deck that people have been asking for a little while, and there's been a couple, I'd say three, that are still up there that people have been wanting. Yeah, I know. How much longer do we have to wait? Well, not much longer for at least one of them. That's right, we're going to be talking about taking extra turns in Modern. This is going to be a little bit different format style than we've done previously, since when you think about this deck, there's the classic taking turns deck, which is kind of mono blue, if you will. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight that first, and then we're going to compare it to other versions. The blue-white, the blue-black version, stuff like that. I played the blue-white version, and I'll talk about, why you might want to splash particular colors, why not just go for the mono blue version, what's the benefits from them, how might you be able to beat the deck, things like that we kind of normally discuss here on the show. Now, we still have 8-Whack, we still have Griselbrand to talk about in the future, but I'd love to hear what other decks people are interested in hearing about. We've been going through a lot, so maybe you might have missed an episode, and if you have, at the end of the episode, of course, we do throw up the playlist link, so you guys can head over and check out any of the previous episodes that we've been able to do. We've also been doing other gaming stuff at the beginning of the week. Usually around Monday, we'll upload. As of right now, we've got a continuing Diablo series going. We've also got some Minecraft content that's going on. So keep your eye out on Monday for when one of those two videos will be coming out. StarCraft Remastered is going to be coming out very soon for the rest of the world. It's already out in Korea, but the rest of the world's going to be getting it, and so there'll be some StarCraft stuff. I might actually do a little bit of streaming again for StarCraft related stuff, so keep your eyes peeled for that stuff. If you guys haven't checked out all the links, do all that stuff. So now that we've got all that maintenance stuff out of the way, you're here to listen to me talk about some Magic. You're here to learn a little bit about an annoying deck, if you will. A lot of people sit down and go, yeah, I don't want to play against this deck. There's a lot of long games, might go to time, like it's really drawn out, and no thank you. I don't want to deal with it. So let's talk about the original version, shall we? Taking turns. Dun 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 dun. Alright. Can you see me, guys? Let's do this for a second. Oh, hi guys, good to see you again. So I'll have my face goes here so you can see me talk for a little bit while we go through this, but once we're doing the comparing stuff, it'll just be the deck list to discuss. So the original version of this, you can see one creature, one planeswalker, some variation, maybe you might run 2 planeswalkers or stuff like that, but for the most part it's all about the spells. So the objective of the deck is to take extra turns, hence the name, right? So let's talk about the creature. You get to scry every turn during your upkeep. Seems great. Set yourself up nicely. If your devotion is 5, now you have a 5/5 indestructible creature. Seems pretty good. Devotion's not that hard to turn on with stuff like Dictate of Crufex, which we'll get into in a little bit. You've also got Jace here, which 3 loyalty planeswalker for 3 mana, usually pretty good in Modern. Each player draws a card, target player draws a card. All that seems pretty good. Drawing cards is great, right? We're all about that. So makes sense. Thassa is kind of a good win condition. You can also go for the deck out route for this sort of version of the deck. You can even do some damage with some of your lands with one of your Awaken abilities there. But lands that we're talking about, 19 islands. We've got our pools here, which it's a storage one, so you can put mana into it and be able to generate mana off of it. Seems good. We've got our blue-white and our black-white one ghost quarter, and then of course our center of the sea. Each player draws a card. Again, drawing cards. Yeah, seems great. I'm all for it. Let's do it. I like it. Elixir of Immortality, gaining life is good, and shuffling some of those cards back into our library. We don't want to deck ourselves out, right? That's not what we want to do. So we're going to go for that route. Howling Mine, just that one of in here. Again, we don't care so much about our opponents drawing more cards because that's fine. We also want to be drawing all into our counter spells, into our extra turn spells. So that's the aspect of it. You can mill somebody out by using your Howling Mines, using your Dictative Grufix, which of course this helps your devotion to Thassa turn her into a creature. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. 3 mana. Alright, seems good. I like it. Cryptic Command, as you'd expect. We've talked about this when we talked about Jeskai Control. Counter, draw a card, tap all opponent's creatures, return a permanent to their hand are the modes for it. You get to pick 2 of them. Great way to help keep yourself alive by tapping down their team. Giga Drowse is the same sort of thing. Tap target permanent and you can replicate it. So you're generating all this mana. I'm just going to start tapping down your creatures again. Seems good. So we've got that aspect. Going back to the counter stuff. Play set of remands. Drawing a card, also very important. Returns to our hand. Spell Snare, cool. Counter target spell with burn mana cost 2. Right, makes sense. Extra draw spells, we got Serum Visions in here. And then draw a card, scry 2, and Telling Time. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put one of those into your hand, one on the top of your library, and one on the bottom. So nice little setup here to kind of cycle through your draws. Now, how are we going to take extra turns? Alright. Most well known for modern aspect of it is our Time Warp. Simple. 5 mana, target player takes an extra turn. Cool. Turn 5, I gotta take an extra turn. Seems great. Temporal Mastery, Miracle. 2 mana, take an extra turn. Sweet. Otherwise, I have to pay 7. Ugh, that's tough. Walk the Eons. Okay, 6. Alright. We're getting there. 5, 6, 7 is kind of our taking extra turns. But I can buy this back. I can sacrifice 3 islands and return it to my hand after I play this. Seems pretty good. Basically delaying when you get to play it again. But if you're sitting there and you've taken a bunch of turns, you've drawn it out for a while, you've drawn into stuff, taking a turn and sack a couple of islands to be able to do it again next seems pretty good. So that's why there's 3 in this list. And then the last one, part the Water Veil. Dying, guys. Dying. Just ate some pizza right before here, and now I'm coughing up pizza now. So here's another 6 cost, part the Water Veil, but it's also got an extra win con attached to it. Take an extra turn after this, but you can awaken it for 9 mana, and you put 6 +1 counters on one of your lands. Seems pretty good. Now you have a threat right there. That ties in really well with the blue-white version, which we'll talk about next, or the blue-black version, which we'll talk about after that. So sideboard, as you might expect, some anti-hate stuff, Grafdigger's Cage, things like that. But it's got some fun stuff in your Laboratory Maniac, because you can deck yourself out, and you just win off that. Aetherize, cool. Turn attacking creatures. Dispel, counter spells, right? Hibernation, green permanents to their hand. Hercule's Recall, dealing with artifacts, things like that. Spell Pierce, more counter magic. Vapor Snag, Wipe Away, things like that. And of course, Wipe Away's got Split Second, which is really nice. Turn target permanent to its owner's hand. Vapor Snag can deal some damage off of it. But the deck is slow. It's got a lot of that setup stages here, right? It's going to rely on doing those Serum Visions, doing the Telling Time, using Spell Snare, Remands, Giga Drowse, those sort of things to just say, hey, you're going too fast. I need to kind of tap you down for a little bit, build up into that 4 mana to rely on Cryptic Command. You know, those first couple turns, they're either going to be drawing cards, countering what you're doing, or making everybody draw cards, right? Dictate, Howling Mine, Jace. By turn 4, they have access to Cryptic Command. Turn 5, they can start taking extra turns. So you really need to be an aggressive deck against this and just say, you know what, I'm coming out of the gates early and quick, and I'm just going right for you, and I'm going to try to get you before it gets to that turn 5 and you start taking all the turns. Because once they start taking extra turns, it can be like, all right, turn 5, Time Warp here. Go to my second turn, untap, play my land. Sweet, now I can play another taking turn card. Untap, play my 7th land, and just kind of snowball out of control. That's when they can start getting their Dictate Crewfix out. That's when they can start playing Thassa, and then they can just be like, all right, now that we've got 2 Dictates of Crewfix, or, you know, we've got Thassa out, we're going to make her unblockable, only for 2 mana, swing in for 5. Okay, I'm going to go to my next turn. I'll play another take a turn card, make her unblockable again, swing it for 5. Alright, go to my next turn, and you just kind of kill somebody with Thassa. Like, that's a way to do it. You can also deck them out and stuff, Jace and Dictate, and, you know, go sort of those routes. It's up to you, because when you're taking these turns, you can just say, you know what, I'm going to uptick Jace. I'm going to uptick Jace. I'm going to uptick Jace. And before you know it, you're at 10, and you just say, okay, you're going to mill 20. Sorry. Oh, and we've been drawing cards this whole time, so, you know, take an extra turn, draw more. Let's keep drawing. Let's keep drawing. So there are those sort of routes to go for, and something to keep in mind when you're playing against this list. So let's talk blue-white, guys. That's the version that I opted for, and the one that I think is a lot of fun, and I like going for splashing colors when you are playing this. So here's one of the big draws to play blue-white. Narset Transcendent. Cost 4 for a 6 loyalty planeswalker, right? You're going to uptick, look at the top card of your library. If it's a non-creature, a non-land card, you can reveal it and put it into your hand. Well, there's 34 spells in this deck. If you look at it, like 37 if you include the planeswalkers, because that fits into a non-creature, non-land card. So 37 targets off of her +1 that you just get to add to your hand. -2, which is my favorite way to play with her, is when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell from your hand this turn, it gains rebound. So guess what? I'm going to sit here and I'm going to cast Temporal Mastery, right? Or Part the Rottervale, or my Time Warp, or Walk the Eons, whatever it may be, to take an extra turn, and now it's rebounded. So I'll say, alright, -2 Narset, and then for my 5-6 mana, we'll say 6 for Part the Rottervale. Alright, I'll pay 6 mana, take an extra turn about this. This now gets exiled. If I have nothing else I can do, I say, go to my next turn. Comes out of exile, gets cast for free. That seems great. Basically, you get 2 extra turns off of 1 spell using Narset. So that's one that I'm a big fan of. Still both running Jace. Okay, makes sense. Seems like a good one to be running, right? We like that. We like Jace. We're fans. So we've got Jace. We're also running Karn Liberated. Yeah, hey, it's easy to get up to a lot of mana if you're taking a lot of extra turns, and Karn can just pick apart everything on the battlefield. A lot of people have a hard time dealing with Karn once he hits, and that's why Tron is considered a very powerful deck, because Karn Liberated and the spells that back up him. So being able to have Karn and all this counter magic to back it up, it seems pretty good, especially when you're just like, play Karn, I'm going to be taking an extra turn next time, but until then, I'm going to exile that permanent, or that pesky thing that I'm really worried about, or exile something from your hand and really get going. So that's kind of the way to go. Also, this list is running Snapcaster instead of Thassa, saying I don't need to worry about Thassa being the beatdown plan. I have another beatdown plan. I'd rather flash something back. Maybe a counter spell, maybe something like that. So let's talk about our spells, though. Again, we've got our Elixir of Immortality. Sweet. Makes a lot of sense. We want some life. We also want to be able to shuffle those awesome take extra turn cards back into our deck. Drawing cards off with Dictate. Makes sense. Same as the original list. No Howling Mine. We've stripped that out. Don't need it. Shave down on Cryptic Command. Only got one now. Giga Drowse down to one. But we are able to get some of those sweet white cards like Path to Exile, Supreme Verdict. We're going to go for some board wipe style of play here. We've also got access to Timely Reinforcements, gain life, get blockers. All of it's great. A big draw to wanting to play white. So other draw spells that we have access to besides Serum Vision, we're also running a playset of Ancestral Visions. Great one because, hey, I'm taking extra turns. Let's suspend. It's going to get ticked off very, very quickly. So big fan of that addition in here. Talked about our counter magic. Remand's in here. Says we don't need the spell snares at all because we have access to other cards. Drawing cards is kind of better off. We've got Timely to kind of get in the way and not so worried about your 2-drops. So what about taking extra turns? Play set of Temporal Mastery. Okay. I like drawing cards and miracling this for 2. Seems good. Delve one. I ran one of in my list and I liked it because some of those cards, like maybe your fetch lands or maybe some of those Serum Visions, you don't care so much about shuffling back into your library off Elixir. So delving this away is pretty nice. But you do have to exile this after you cast it. But hey, that's okay. Paying 3 mana to take an extra turn is nice if you have 8 cards to delve away. Otherwise, you have to pay 11. But it's going to be cheaper. You could get this down to a manageable 5-6 mana if need be. Of course, a playset of Time Warp because, hey, a 5 mana take an extra turn and a 2 mana take an extra turn are the best ways to be doing that. So you see that's the main route for it. We've also got one Walk the Eons. Again, sacking islands, taking turns. Cool. This list is opting for the snow-covered route. You don't need the snow-covered. It's fine. Like, you can just go straight up islands and plains if you want. But this is more of a aesthetic thing, pleasing, however they want to do it. So, fetch lands, Flooded Strands, Glacial Fortress, cool, Hollow Fountain, Prairie Stream. Yep. Got some more fetches. Scalding Tarn. Of course, Center of the Sea. Going to draw some cards. Water's Edge here. Untap target legendary permanent. Cool. Makes a lot of sense. We can kind of do some shenanigans here and just go back and forth and draw a bunch of cards, right? Yeah, seems good. But the other win con, and the reason to also run white besides Narset, is Celestial Colonnade. Alright? I personally opted for the Celestial Colonnade with Part the Water Veil. This list that we're showcasing here did not run it over wanting to run Ancestral Visions and stuff like that, but having a 4/4 flyer, and that is a clock itself, but I've been able to kill somebody with an Awakened Celestial Colonnade. Part the Water Veil, Awaken, we've gone on a little bit. I've taken a bunch of turns, so now I'm able to cast 9 mana on a Celestial Colonnade. So instead of being a 4/4, Celestial Colonnade's now a 6/6 flying and vigilance. So I'll just simply animate it, right? Instead of being a 6/6 land by itself, I can pay 5 mana, and now it is a 10/10 flying vigilance. Otherwise, it's just 6/6. So now I can just fly over top of you, deal 10 damage to you. Oh, and I awaken that, so I get to take an extra turn, and here's 10 more damage. And you just 2-shot somebody. Simple and easy, right? So that's one of the ways that I like to do it. And if you're going to play blue-white, I recommend you running Part the Water Veil in your list because that was probably my favorite thing to do besides Rebound, taking extra turn cards off of Narset. So that's a big draw to running this route. The other thing is you get sweet white cards, right? We saw the Path to Exile, we saw the Timely Reinforcements here, but Monastery Mentor in the sideboard, yeah, all of my stuff is going to be a non-creature spell that I'm casting. I mean, we see 37 non-creature spells in this list. So running that to get a bunch of creatures and go wide against somebody seems good. Like, Detention Sphere, another great one to be able to get access to. Celestial Purge, well, we do know Death Shadow's pretty scary to deal with, so exiling that's nice. Oracle's Recall, Affinity's really bad matchup for us because it's so quick, so we need something to kind of deal with that. Negate if we're going for a counter war. More Path to Exile. Jace Rune's Prodigy, I liked running that in my list. I think it works out nicely. You know, draw some cards, and then you can be able to, of course, have that flipped and be able to basically get a Snapcaster, give something flashback from your graveyard, stuff like that. Teferi's in here, pretty sweet. 3/4 creatures you own that aren't in play have flash. Each opponent can't play spells only anytime he can play a sorcery. So they're not going to be playing stuff during their opponent's turn, essentially, is how it's set up. And then an additional Supreme Verdict. So more board wipes, you know, single target removal with Path to Exile. Like, you're set up really nicely with this kind of blue-white list. Again, it does suffer from the same sort of issues of a very fast clock against it does really well. And so that's why it's the same sort of plan as I need to set up my draw steps. So that first turn is going to be set up with our Serum Visions or an Ancestral Vision suspended. Cool. Makes sense. Turn 2, we're going to hope for one of these two or have a remand. Alright? Seems good. Turn 3, we're going for our Dictate. We're going for a Jace. Turn 4, we're going to have access to Cryptic Command. We're going to have access to Narset. We're going to have access to Dictate. You know, things like that. We can even do Timely on those turn 3, turn 4, depending on how things are looking. And then you get into, let's take extra turns. Let's wipe the board. Whatever we need to do. And, you know, definitely has a lot more options available to it than the original mono blue version. So I'm a big fan of this. Now, let's talk our blue black list. Snapcasters, okay? No Planeswalkers for this list. You could say, what about Jace? You could still run Jace if you really want to go that way. But this saying, you know what? Snapcaster is the way to go. Howling Mine, we're going to run 3. We're going to uptick this up. Don't need an Elixir. I think you need to run at least an Elixir sideboard, if not main. I like Elixir too much to cut completely, but hey, that's okay. I've been playing the blue-black version. Maybe it's slightly better that it doesn't even need it. Again, we've got our draws with Dictate. We've got our playset of Serum Visions is in here. Cool. As we expect, Cryptic Command, Remand, and a new spell, Commandeer. Normally costs 7, but you can remove 2 blue cards in your hand from the game rather than paying its mana cost. Seems good. And you gain control of target non-creature spell. You may choose new targets for it. If the spell is an artifact or enchantment, the permanent comes into play under your control. So, hey, you know what? I will be taking that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Just for removing 2 blue cards from my hand. Or playing 7. You know, I like it. It's a nice little gotcha card. Nobody's expecting that. So I like that kind of addition in here. Exhaustion is what I ran in mine instead of Gigadrouse. They work out okay. Like, they're both, you know, how you want to play it. Gigadrouse, of course, is just the 1 mana. Exhaustion does cost 3. You will replicate Gigadrouse usually, so it's going to be tapping multiple stuff. I need to pay extra. Where this is just, you pay 3, creatures and land don't untap during your opponent's next untap step. So if they've been attacking you or they've been casting spells, they're not going to be doing that next turn. So I like that, and just locking people out for a turn, basically buying me a little bit of extra time. That sort of thing. So, you know, nice little fun aspect to running Exhaustion. So, of course, you're running black, you have to run Fatal Push, right? So there's 2 there in the main board. And as we saw with our previous taking extra turns, Part the Water Veil, Temporal Mastery, and Time Warp. Cool. Not opting for Walk the Eons here, but you do see a full... We've hopped it back up to 3 Part the Water Veils. And a big reason for that is for one of our man lands that we're running in this, which I did not run when I ran blue-white because I was like, Colonnade's great. But now I'm thinking, you know what? Part the Water Veil on our Ink Moth. Now this is a 6/6 land. I pay 1, and now he is a 7/7 flying infect land. Now, yeah, that's pretty fun, right? We like that. Well, I like that. Not something most people are expecting, right? You're not going to be prepared against that. Otherwise, what we expect to see: islands, drowned catacomb, cycling, the fetid pools here, cool. Misty, some fetches, polluted, yep. Sunken Hollow, cool. Sunken Ruins, filter land, nice. Watery Grave, alright. Center of the Sea, cool. Alright, makes a lot of sense. What else are we going with? Alright. Fatal Push is sweet. What other stuff? What's the other draw? Well, a lot of it's this sideboard stuff, right? The same for white. Why would we want it? Because of these sweet cards. Like, we got Thoughtseize, Collective Brutalities in here. I like it, right? Then this also gives us access to some other fun stuff. We've got Chalice of the Void in this list, Engineered Explosive, Second Commandeer, Dispel, Hercule's Recall, Negate, and my favorite, Thing in the Ice. I ran that in my blue-white list. So I ran a couple of Thing in the Ices instead of having Karn, instead of having Jace, Balerion. I was opting for the Thing in the Ice. Because, having 2 in the main board was fun. Because again, the very aggressive decks are annoying to deal with. You have access to a blocker, and oh, you know what? Now I have a 7/8 horror, and I can bounce your non-horrors from it. Yeah, I'm okay with that. That seems like a good thing to be running in a deck that's full of 35 spells. So, the same sort of aspect. It does falter against those quick decks. That's why these like Fatal Pushes, the Exhaustion, are the way to kind of deal with it. All the decks need something like that if you're going to be running them. There are different reasons to be running the different colors. I don't think the mono blue is the way to go anymore based on how meta's been going. I think the white version is probably the best version from me playing it. I've enjoyed it the most, and especially with the annoying cards being able to recur things from the graveyard. Just exiling them outright with Path to Exile seems better. But I think you can do a combination too. Include maybe an Ink Moth in your list. I think just a singleton's fine. If you're going to be running Part the Water Veil, having that access to just like a crazy clock out of nowhere is kind of the way to go. And that's the power of this deck too, is that it can snowball. And what most people are not prepared is, hey, I'm not ready against this Ink Moth out of here. I'm not ready for you to just go Time Warp, take an extra turn, go to my extra turn. Oh, Miracle, a Temporal Mastery. I get an extra turn. Like, oh, now I've been building up my mana. Now I can awaken, apart the Water Veil, and all the while being able to exhaust you, tap down your stuff. And this is nice too, the Giga Drowse and Exhaustion combination. Because you can be like, alright, tap your team, tap your lands, and now you're exhausted and you can't do anything your next turn. You've got no way to deal with it. Also, if you've just got that Ink Moth and they've got a flyer, you can be able to tap down that flyer. So, Cryptic Command is a must for this sort of list. Definitely need those Serum Visions. But you can see across the board that having the extra turn cards is really important based on the kind of deck that you're going to be going for. You can go for more, you can go for less. I think there's a sweet spot. I ran one Howling Mine in my list, but I did like having all the dictates. So you do have the flexibility. There's a lot of flex spots that we've been able to see surface across all the lists. But really 23 lands is sufficient enough because you're going to be setting things up and drawing cards, and it's very easy to just kind of draw a land, play a land every single turn. Even on your extra turns, you can just play your lands pretty easily, and they just become fodder later on. So here's the taking turn, something that people have been kind of asking about for a while. Again, I'm a fan of the blue-white one, and I would recommend people playing the blue-white one if they're going to be playing. But hey, it's a fun deck. Do what you want to do, right? pick the deck that you enjoy playing in Modern. That's the benefit of Modern, is that there can be crazy decks like this out there for you to go, wow, I really want to just sit here and, you know, mess with my opponent, make sure their stuff is tapped down, and I just take a bunch of turns and, you know, draw a bunch of cards and be a blue mage and, you know, like, just do fun and silly things. You can do that. That's what's so awesome about Modern, is there's so many different decks and playstyles. And, you know, I've seen in the comments some people have been like, man, I really hate this deck, I can't believe people like playing that. But then again, there's certain decks that people play that they're like, man, I really hate that deck, I don't know why you would play that. I see a lot of hate, especially towards Tron and stuff like that. And, you know, I get it, especially if you end up battling against it and losing a lot. It becomes not fun, and you're like, man, I really hate that deck because I just keep losing to it. And then, you know, you just tweak your deck accordingly and put in more sideboard hate against it and stuff like that. So doing things a little differently, kind of just comparing lists across the board for taking turns. Let me know what you think about this style. By showcasing the two decks side by side, did that help people out when visualizing it? I'm more of a visual person, so I like being able to see stuff, but I know, you know, people like doing different things. But just trying out, still trying to improve this as much as I can for all of you guys sitting and watching at home. But you know, again, if you guys like this stuff, please hit the follow, subscribe, because there is a new video coming out each and every week for you to be able to enjoy. There's also going to be a lot of additional content coming out. Beginning of the week is still our non-magic related content, being able to put up Diablo, going to be able to put up some Minecraft, some StarCraft stuff, all kinds of good stuff at the beginning of the week. But you'll always see Modern at the end of the week. Of course, we've got our weekly coverage. Down here you see Modern Magic Mondays, all that kind of good stuff. And of course, you know, hit the follows on Twitter, all those kind of things. All this stuff definitely helps show your support for the sort of projects and stuff that I'm working on right now. But that's going to do it for us here tonight, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching, and I'll see you guys next game.